Another day to live through. Better get started.
Another noteworthy post-apocalyptic movie, very different from Hokuno no Ken, is actually Last Man on Earth, a 1950s film adaptation of the novel I Am Legend. If Hokuno no Ken, Kenshiro Den ends on a bittersweet note with the knowledge that the future is going to be happier and that the hero has gained strength to perhaps better secure victories in the future, then Last Man on Earth is an entirely bleak and tragic film. It follows a doctor named Robert Morgan as he tries to survive a zombie vampire plague apocalypse. The first 20 minutes of the film, it's of him just walking about doing his day, waking up, checking to see his supplies, of which he has an ample supply of, checking to see if his house is fortified well enough, sure that the monsters can't get inside his house. He checks to make sure if he has enough gasoline for his car. It shows him going and building the weapons that he uses to kill these monsters, to check the maps, to go over his notes to make sure which areas that he's checked for the hive's source that's been attacking him. It shows him just going about his day, getting supplies, taking out these monsters, resupplying his car with gasoline, the most mundane of things. Really, Vincent Price's performance shines in the first 20 minutes. It glitters off of the screen with just how bleak, yet also how mundane it is. He's doing things as simple as shopping, yet it's given so much more atmosphere due to how empty the world is. The first 20 minutes really nail down a solid theme of Last Man on Earth.
December 1965. Is that all it has been since I inherited the world? Only 3 years. Seems like 100 million.
And that is isolation and loneliness. The world is empty and devoid of people and company, and our character is going mad in it. The first dialogue in the film is an inner monologue. All the people in the world are either monsters trying to kill him or dead bodies that he has to dispose of. And the only thing in abundance besides space is the supplies that he has to eat and drink and that he's growing tired of.
There was a time when eating was pleasurable. Now it bores me.
A siege of the monsters starts off the second act. He's locked up inside his house, and the monsters, the zombified remains of his former colleagues, allies, and friends, are bashing against his house, demanding to be let in so they can kill him. And trying to escape this nightmare, he does several things. The first thing he does is he watches an old home video of his family, which immediately launches into the second and worse outcome of that siege, him reminiscing on the past. This cuts to a series of flashbacks during that siege in which he goes over in his mind the events that led up to the apocalypse. Originally it shows a thriving America in which he's attending his daughter's birthday party. It's filled with people. His best friend, his wife, his lovely wife, his daughter, and all of her friends. They're having a great deal of fun. But there's a tension in the air. There's a tension in the air about this European virus spreading through the air that's killing a lot of people. But he comforts his wife, saying that he's working on the cure for this. However, as the months go on and the world gets much more empty and more people die, martial law is instituted and bodies, instead of being buried, are being burned inside a gigantic, black, smoky pit. It becomes much, much more bleak. His friend becomes paranoid and refuses to show up to the lab where they both work. He refuses to tell anybody about what's going on because he's sick and he doesn't want his body to be burned. Morgan tells the military. Eventually it gets to the point where people aren't even able to show up to the lab for work, and it's just Morgan. He's the only one who's not affected. His daughter dies and he refuses to let her be burned, but the military throw her in, keeping him away. And when his wife comes down with this same sickness, he doesn't tell anybody, just like his friend did. When she dies, he decides to bury her. With the first revelation that this is a zombie vampire virus, she attacks him in his house, to which he kills her and takes her and buries her in a concrete coffin in a church in the same town. We then cut right back to the siege in progress. He tries to go to sleep. It's a living hell, a cacophony inside his house.
Do you hear, Morgan? Morgan? Do you hear, Morgan?
He's trapped. The next day, he see him going out there and checking his embattlements yet again. He has to repair many elements. The mirrors have been broken, the garlic's been removed, a huge number of elements. And while he's outside, stroke of joy. A dog. He sees a dog that isn't dead, and he runs after it, begging it to stay so he can be friends with it. It's a breath of fresh air in the film. Vincent Price genuinely looks overjoyed playing Robert Morgan, and Morgan looks so relieved of his loneliness in this scene. When he takes the dog inside and he patches up its wound, and then it's wonderful to see him talk to the dog like a new friend, like his lonely days are over. Then, being the scientist with the curiosity that he has, he examines the dog's blood underneath the microscope and discovers the dog has it. He, in order to keep from getting attacked by it, kills the dog and buries it out near a tree. While he's doing this, he sees yet another potential respite of hope to relieve him of his loneliness. A young woman walking over the hill. He chases after her, asking her not to run away, desperately trying to get acquainted with her, and she runs away, and he catches up with her, and he says to not be afraid of him. She reluctantly agrees to follow him back to his house, and where he tries to make her comfortable. He asks her about where she came from, and she's not altogether clear on the answers that she gives. Then, when she has a bad-looking reaction to the garlic, his suspicions.
You are infected.
No.
Infected systems are allergic to garlic.
You think I'm one of them?
You will be.
Arise. He thinks that she's one of the monsters trying to hunt him down, yet she was up during the day. How is this possible? The monsters don't come up during the day. She reveals, after an intense line of questioning, that she's part of a new society of half of these night creatures that are attacking Morgan and half cured human. They've mixed their blood with the vaccine and it cures them mostly. They can walk around during the day, but they prefer to sleep during the day. They're not mindless, rabid monsters that feast on the weak or members of their own race. They're just people trying to rebuild society. And all the radio messages he's been sending out looking for companionship have been taunts, because he's their boogeyman. In his quest to find the monsters that have been trying to assault his house, and all the zombie bodies that he's been staking and burning, a large number of them have been the members of this new society, of the people that he would be overjoyed if he met them on nicer terms. He's been killing them and their friends and their loved ones, and they're terrified of him. She tells him that she was ultimately meant to trap him, to distract him, so that way they could find him and ultimately defeat him, kill him. He then does something very interesting, in my opinion. He mixes his blood with the vaccine and gives it to her. Time later, he checks her blood, and it's cured. She's no longer any of the night creatures. He's overjoyed with this. He can now find a way to enter in their society and perhaps cure them of their ills. But it's too late. The truck drives up with an army of black-shirted men. He has to run away. They're not listening to him. They want to kill him. The zombies that try to initially siege his house, they're overpowered by this new society and its death squad, and he runs away, fighting back. with a pistol, and then with smoke bombs. Eventually he runs into the church where his wife's body is held, and he says to them,
I'm a man. The last man.
Robert.
They were afraid of me. They were afraid of me. They were afraid of me.
I didn't know.
and then when he dies with a spear to the chest, the woman that he almost befriended walks away in sadness because the last remnant of human civilization in a world of emptiness is gone, and now a new society has to build its way up from almost like medieval times. This is a fascinating movie. It's a great example of a horror film and an excellent example of a post-apocalyptic film that doesn't rely on a wasteland where the fight is for resources. Resources aren't the problem in this movie. It's the loneliness. The character is completely alone, and yet he's looking over his shoulder and terrified. Any sign of company that isn't hostile to him, he meets with joy. And any time he has to either something to fear from them, he has to leave them. It's really kind of heartbreaking in moments. And then at the very end, where society turns against him, where he's their monster, it almost kind of reminds me of the story of Grendel, where Grendel's sort of like a tragic beast in the context of the story Beowulf, as compared to just a mindless monster. I really like this movie for the fact that it puts us in the shoes of a protagonist that seems to be trying to save human civilization, but then subverts it in showing him to be the inadvertent force of destruction going against human civilization in a way coming back. And that destruction that he causes being a similar basis of fear being used against him, like he uses against the other creatures.
We're alive. Infected, yes, but alive. We're going to reorganize society. Do away with all those wretched creatures who are neither alive nor dead. Start everything all over again.
And you want me to join?
You can't join us. You're a monster to them. Why do you think I ran when I saw you? Even though I was assigned to spy on you, because I was so terrified of what I'd heard about you. You're a legend in the city, moving by day instead of night, leaving as evidence of your existence bloodless corpses. Many of the people you destroyed were still alive. Many of them were loved ones of the people in my group.
I didn't know.